grateful for all of you being here and those of you that are watching. We'll go ahead with introductions. Vice Chair Booth.
Good morning. I am Randy Booth, representing District 13, which is Nebo School District and Provo City School District. And I'm pleased to serve as Vice Chair of this committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Longacre?
Yeah, so happy to be here. And Randy, it's good to see you. I serve District 7, and it is parts of Draper, Sandy, and Cottonwood Heights.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you. Member Davis?
Good morning. I'm Cindy Davis, and I represent District 11, which is northern Utah County and some parts of western southern Salt Lake County. So happy to be here with you this morning, and grateful to be here to talk about our Utah Schools for the Deaf and Blind. Thanks.
Thank you. And I am not seeing Member Brinton yet. So we'll go ahead and move forward. Looks like we have 5 on for public comment today. And we will start with Ryan Layton, and then Sarah Erb, then Alyssa Nilsson, Jonathan Huggeson, and Elisa Enzyme. And we have a timer for 3 minutes up. So Ryan Layton, look forward to hearing from you.
Just give the interpreter 1 second to pin Ryan and make him just a little larger on my screen. Great. Okay, thank you. Great. Thank you. Good morning, board members. Thank you so much for allowing me this opportunity to participate. I represent the Utah Association of the Deaf, and we wanted to make an appearance and express a few concerns that we had about the last town hall meeting that was happened recently regarding USDB. The concerns that we have are apparently our understanding of the board is that the leaders of USDB, Michelle Tanner and let's see, sorry, let me get my notes just 1 second. And Susan Patton, and also Darren Nielsen. Apparently they have been asked not to show up to that town hall meeting, and that was a little puzzling. I don't know why they would be asked to not appear, because it was regarding USDB. Another concern we have is that that meeting was advertised as a very important meeting to the community, to teachers, to parents about dealing with the law, HB 484, and that how it would impact USDB. But the meeting was limited to an hour, and the community discussion could not really happen. You did ask for questions ahead of time, and I understand that, but at the same time, the public did not have an opportunity to give any kind of feedback or anything, because it was limited to an hour, and we wanted more information. We wanted to have more answers, and that just wasn't enough. So I just wanted to put that out there. So thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Layton. Appreciate your time. We'll go to Sarah Erb.
Thank you.
What does that mean?
USDB.
Sarah Erb, are you on today?
Vice Chair, this is Deputy Superintendent Voorhees. She doesn't appear to be in the participant list.
Okay, thank you. I should have that up. I was cycling through. the members on the screen. All right, we'll move to Alyssa Nilsson. If you see her, will you please let me know?
Hi.
Okay,
Hello.
Elisa,
Can you hear
thank you
me
for being
okay?
here.
Alrighty. I'd like to start out by saying thank you for supporting USDB in the recent legislative session. I am grateful as a parent that the after school and summer program activities are reinstated for the kids to continue learning more. Thank you so much. Sadly, I'm also upset a little bit over the town hall meeting that we just had recently. Questions were not answered fully. There was no feedback given at the meeting. And as a parent, I feel like I did not have a real say. I specifically wish to address the hiring process for the new superintendent. This is a job that directly affects my child's learning. My child is deaf and needs a superintendent with a background in deaf education so that they can understand her needs and the other needs of the children in USDB. In many other schools, districts there are on make a panel and have qualified applicants, and then there's a vote on who to hire, not just one single person choosing who to hire. I would like a panel created, if we could, to look at more qualified applicants. On that panel, we would need to have, I would personally prefer having Associate Superintendent of the Deaf, Michelle Tanner. Michelle has been a great supporter of our children for years and knows their needs. She is a voice that, as a parent of a deaf child, I respect and trust to help choose a superintendent who has USDB students' interests first and foremost. I'm also concerned that I did not see in a lot of the legislative sessions, the associate superintendent and interim superintendent were not in attendance. And I was confused because I know some of them would really wanted to go, and I just don't see all of them not showing up. So I was questioning, were they told to stay away? These superintendents need to be there for our kids for every part of not only meetings, but public comments, everything, because they are the ones who are helping directly be with our children. Thank you so much for the time, and please continue to do the wonderful work that you are doing. We thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Alyssa. Let's move to Jonathan Helgeson.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Yes, I'm so happy to be here with you. My name is Jonathan Helgeson, and I am the extracurricular director. I do want to express my gratitude for all of you and your support for my program, that $250,000 that was given to us to help to maintain and sustain our after-school activities, our summer camps, and some other activities that our students are being able to participate in. And the kids are so thrilled to see after-school activities. Again, we had 16 kids sign up for just the first one. 13 from JMS, and KBS, we're still working on getting them up and running. So very excited to have that back. And I just wanted to express my deep felt appreciation for that. I really appreciate that. I feel so envisioned and so enlightened and in just so appreciative of that for you, for our kids. And I really want you to understand that my heart is full because of that. And to work and see the kids ask me, when is it going to pay him back? When is it going to come back? When are we having it again? And to be able to tell them that it is back. I just wanted to emphasize that so much to you. Thank you so much for that. My second point is that I do want to share my perspective. My perspective is that as the school, we need to be seen as operating as a school from the state perspective, not as an agency. Those are two different categorizations, if you will. We need to be seen as a school and not be functioning as an agency. I just want to put that out there because we are a school, right? And again, though, I do again want to express my appreciation for your support. I know that there are a lot of things going on, but I do really appreciate everything that you do. And thank you again. And that's all I have to say. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. We'll move to Elisa Ensign.
Good morning. How's everyone today? I've enjoyed this past year being an active participant and watching the legislative process at USDB, and here again to express my gratitude to the USPE board and the standing committee, especially for the support of the School for the Deaf. Especially grateful for the securing an allocation of funds for the enrichment program for our deaf students. My daughter's already been involved and is benefiting from that support. So thank you. After the recent town hall meeting, Superintendent Hart had said that we can reach out. So I'm going to use this avenue today to bring some of my questions and concerns that came to me after the town hall meeting. I have a lot of questions, so I will actually email a list and we'll just focus on a couple of main points. First, as a parent, I have a large concern about the balance of administration, management, and leadership being able to fight and advocate for my child. Superintendent Hart explained in the town hall meeting that her role is not that in the classroom, in the school, fighting, advocating for our student, but that other leaders would have that role taken. So as I've watched meetings this past year, I've noticed that there's several meetings where leadership that would be there advocating for my child were not involved. So I'm here to formally ask that our future USDB superintendent and our associate superintendents be included in legislative committee meetings and all USBE meetings, and that their voice be heard because their voice represents my child. And that leadership representation is of big value to me. Second question, during the TAL meeting, Assistant Superintendent of Student Services, Leah Voorhees, stood with Superintendent Hart. Why was she chosen to stand next to Superintendent Hart and not a USDB administration? Is Dr. Voorhees a part of USDB administration? That's not clear to me as a parent. I had a lot of questions in regards to the superintendency position as well. I will just focus on my clarifying questions I wished I could have asked that night. In that selection process, what does that look like? Superintendent Hart says she gets to pick, but I'm curious, are there panels of those that are familiar with deaf education, deaf-blind education, and blind education? Will the advisory council be involved as they do report to this committee, and then this committee reports to the state board? Can they be used? My hope and recommendation would be to listen to the communities of the school that supports, as clearly the job posting does not require expertise in any deaf or blind education. Please, as this decision is made to impact our students, listen to those that do have knowledge and information so that we can select a great leader for our school. Thank you.
Thank you, Elisa. Did Sarah Erb ever get on?
Vice Chair, this is Deputy Superintendent Voorhees, and no, it does not appear that she has.
Okay, thank you. Then we will move forward. Appreciate all those who took their time to share with us today. There seems to be a delay again with cameras and such, so we'll just have to be patient today. I am seeking a motion. This was something we intended to do last month, but ran out of time. We are going to go into closed session. I would seek a motion for the board to go into closed session for the purpose of discussing student services, discussions regarding necessary services for individual students, and for appropriations that may affect specific individuals. Do I have a board member willing to make that motion?
I will.
I'm happy to make that motion.
Member Booth?
I move that we go into closed session for the purposes of discussing those items that you just enumerated.
Okay. This will be by voice vote. Member Booth,
Yes.
Member Longacre,
Yes.
Member Davis,
Yes.
And Member Brenton.
Yes.
All right. So we will go into a breakout room. The video will show that we are in a breakout session, and then we'll come back, and this closed session is specifically dealing with individual students. That's why we're going into a closed session in order to debate policy or anything that should be and is required to be by our bylaws. We will be back into an open session. So appreciate the patience of those who are watching this as we do the business of the committee. And Jerry, I'm going to have you direct us in how we do this.
Okay, we're good to go.
Chair, I move that we move out of closed session back into our open meeting.
Thank you. We have a motion to move out of closed session. Member Booth? We'll vote on this. Member Booth?
Yes?
Member Davis?
Yes.
Member Longacre?
Yes.
Member Brenton?
Yes.
And I am a yes. Thank you. All right. Thank you for the patience of those watching our meeting today. We'll move to action 2.1. This is our 8.23 Bridges to Community Readiness Post-High Program Policy. And just some background on this. This is not a new program. It has been in effect for some past years. It is a new policy as we are moving through all of our policies and programs, working to make sure that we have something written in place that the board has approved and moving forward. And that's why we've been discussing this Bridges program. Do we have Susan, do you want to speak to this policy, or Superintendent Nelson, before we move into a discussion?
Yeah, Chair, I don't have any, I get my camera to turn on. Chair, I don't have any comments. The board has had this before the committee for a number of months now. And again, I just reiterate to your point that you just made to the public, this is our effort to allow the policymakers to establish a policy around our post-high school or bridges to community readiness practices and policy. And we're very appreciative of the thoughtfulness that has been put into considering the language of this policy.
Okay, thank you.
And Chair Wood, this is Susan Patton, and I was going to just say the same thing, that we're appreciative of the legwork that's been put in by board members, and that appreciative of the time and effort that's put in. But I don't have anything to speak to the policy, any changes or anything like that.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I would like the public to know that the board, our committee as a whole, we have taken the opportunity to tour the program. We've also reached out to our local high school post programs to understand the difference. We reached out to the Utah Parent Center, the Disability Law Center, Vocational Rehab, and DSVBI to better understand the similarities and differences of the program. So there's been a lot of work done behind the scenes to have a better understanding. And then also our closed session was to talk about specific students who are in the program, who have been in the program in the past, and what it has done for them or is doing for them. So I will leave this open to our board members. Do you have any comments, concerns, motions that you'd like to work on right now? Member Brenton.
Yes, thank you. Hi, I just had a question towards the end of the policy. First, on why we're striking 11.1 through 11.3. Could you just explain? Because it seems to clearly talk about the exit strategy and how students are preparing to leave. So I just wondered why that was being taken off. And then if it is stricken, then we also need to realign the numbers.
And one of our staff speak to 11, to the language that is
Yes, I'm happy to. This is Susan. So it seemed the reason why it was struck, if I'm remembering right. So please, anybody pipe in that is remembering something different. That it was it was a duplicate of what was said later on, or with the exit procedure. So that was the reason why that was taken out.
Chair, I can just add to what Susan had indicated. This is a draft 2 of this policy. When
Correct.
draft 1 came before the board, there was some discussion about that sections 11.1, 11.2, and 11.3 didn't add enough clarity around the exit pathways. And so the section below that in blue is the text that was added after draft 1, and the board or the committee requested to provide more details about the various processes for exiting the program.
Thank you. Yeah, I know I was one of those that asked for some more detail regarding the remove, how students were exited from the program. So thank you for this additional information. Member Britton, did that answer your question, or do you have any follow-up?
No follow-up. That answered it. Thank you.
Okay, any other board members?
Chair Wood, it appears then that the numbering does need to be adjusted with that change. Am I wrong?
No, that would be correct, and I think that would be a technical change. If this draft were to pass, then they'll go through and number properly.
Okay.
So
Do we
thank you.
have?
This is Deputy Voorhees, and that's correct.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion that is prepared? I would move that the committee approve the 8.23 Bridges to Community Readiness Post High School Services Policy Draft 2 on first reading and forward to the board for approval on second and final reading.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion to approve that the committee approve the 8.23 Bridges to Community Readiness Post High School Services Policy Draft 2 on first reading and forward to the board for approval on second and final reading. Discussion to that motion. Member Davis.
I have a substitute motion, and I would move that we postpone this agenda item until the May USDB committee meeting. And I'd like to speak to it.
All right, go ahead.
I understand if folks want to pass this today, we've done a lot of research in this area, and I have just one more step that I personally would like to understand if committee members feel differently. But I would ask for one more month.
Okay. Any discussion to this motion to postpone? I would ask Superintendent Patton, do you have any concerns in terms of our students who are in the program now if we were to postpone this?
I do not. We would just keep moving forward as far as where the students are, what they're doing now and progressing forward. We would just ask that we have enough time to make sure that we have comprehensive exit plans for the students if it were not to pass, but not at this point. We don't have concerns about that.
Okay, thank you. Any comments from our other board members? I'm not seeing any hands, so I just want to give people opportunity to speak if necessary. If not, we'll go ahead and move to the motion to postpone. Let's go voice vote just in case there's a difference here. Motion to postpone, Member Booth,
Yes.
Member Davis,
Yes.
Member Longacre,
Yes.
Member Brinton,
Yes.
And I'm a yes, so that passes unanimously. All right, then we will move that to our May board meeting and continue our homework. So thank you for that. Our next action item is 3.2, the fiscal year USDB School Land Trust Plan Amendment. Dr. Tanner.
Oh, good morning. All right, so we have had to work through our school land trust amendment because we had some money that was left on the table due to a transition between our previous business administrator to the new system that we have with the USBE. And in that transition, not all of the money was used. And so we had to account for what we did use and how we intend to use it, which is in the same manner that we have used it in the past. We've been using it on educational technology. This amendment went through a subcommittee of the advisory council that included parents. All of them were parents. And we went through the list of what items we still intended to purchase as a part of the educational technology. They approved that. This went then forward to the full advisory council, which was reviewed by the full advisory council, and it was approved there. And there is the vote on that one. That was approved unanimously. It shows that 2 didn't approve. That's because 2 of the advisory council members are non-voting members and therefore didn't place a vote because they're considered non-voting. But we have left only 512 some odd cents on the table. And so just wanted to present this to you for a full vote.
Thank you. We can't say that we're not getting input with the multiple steps, can we?
Lots of input. It was good.
Well, and this is a new, just for the public's awareness, we recently added this subcommittee of parents who are specifically parents at our campus schools. Is that accurate?
That is true.
And we're continuing. Do we have any more open spaces on that? I know we've been continually approving additional parents onto this committee. Do we have any
I
open?
believe there have been others that have been added. I'm not sure of their names just yet because that happened after our meeting.
Okay. Do you know if there's any other openings just for the public awareness?
I believe they have up to 8. Superintendent Nielsen may know the full number. I know of the 4 that I worked with. There may be more that were added recently.
I think we added 2 or 3. So we're still, if parents were, I just love that we're trying to be flexible and getting more parent input and voices. So just want people to know that we're working hard to make sure voices are heard. So, all right.
That's correct.
Any questions or concerns to the amendment to the trust land plan? I am not seeing any hands, so we will move ahead with a motion. To have a board member willing to make a motion?
Chair, I'll move that the committee approve the USDB fiscal year 26 amended school land trust plan and forward to the board for approval on second and final reading.
Thank you. Not seeing any hands, we'll go ahead to a vote that the committee approve the USDB fiscal year 26 amended school land trust plan and forward to the board for approval on second and final reading. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion passes unanimously. Right, we'll move to action item 3.4. Oh, nope, 3.3, fiscal year 27 USDB school land trust plan. Is that Dr. Tanner?
It is. This is meeting a timeline. We also have to get to the board soon by May. And so this is the plan for the upcoming school year. After a robust discussion, all the parents involved in that subcommittee determined they would still like to continue to use the funds to purchase educational technology. The reason that we choose educational technology, it's a benefit to both the deaf students and the blind students. So there are technology, these numbers are determined based on how many students are enrolled at the school in our October 1 count. So for the past year, this current number was 230. 89% of those students are deaf students, 11% of those students are blind students. So as far as percentage wise, the truth of the matter is that we could have access to all of it. All 100% of the blind students, 100% of the deaf students could have access to all of these tools. They have access to, some are geared more towards the deaf school and some are geared towards the blind school. And so, and that's how it works out. And we support one another, those things. So this report has us about 46,000, little over 46,652 spend. We're going to spend 46,349, which will leave us about $300, $302 and some odd cents, which is good because we don't want to carry forward for the next year. That's what causes problems. So right there, you'll see this. There is an updated report that didn't make it in time for backup that has the 46. I was able to get that added. And so that pulls us down to 302. So there is not a carry forward of 28,794 that's listed on the screen. There's actually 302 because I was able to actually add that in another section. So with that, then and again, it went through the same process. It went through the subcommittee to the advisory council, now to you, and hopefully on to the full board. So I'm looking for an approval.
Thank you. Can you help me understand what the fusion is?
Fusion is actually for the blind students. That helps with I believe that's the actual company that does JAWS, I think, if I remember, but I know that Fusion is for the blind students.
Okay. So is it another testing? A lot of these are assessment.
No, no, actually. Susan would be the much better person to talk to that, but JAWS actually tells you what's being read on the screen. I'll let Susan respond.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not for assessment, it's for accessibility
Okay.
for different screen readers, JAWS being one of them.
Oh, okay. So it allows a number of screen readers to work for your
Yes,
students. Okay.
correct.
Thank you. Thanks for that clarification. All right. I'm not seeing any hands, so I will take a motion if a board member is willing.
I'd be happy to. I
Thank you.
move that the committee approve the USDB FY27 School Land Trust Plan and forward to the board for approval on second and final reading.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion to approve the USDB fiscal year 27 school land trust plan and forward to the board for approval on second and final reading. All in favor say aye.
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 Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously.
I'm sorry, I
Thank
forgot
you
to turn
so
my
much.
camera on to make the motion. I apologize. I forgot to turn the camera on to make the motion.
Oh, thank you. I keep forgetting to turn mine off when I'm not speaking, so we're learning. Let's move to 3.4, the LEA specific
Thank you.
licenses. And is that Dr. Tanner or Dr. Nelson?
I'm available.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so Michelle, you've worked with Malia on this, and I think all of these educators fall under our schools for the deaf that we're requesting only specific licenses. So go ahead.
Yes, so this is in making sure that our teachers qualify for the classes that they are teaching. So for example, I have several teachers, these are all secondary teachers, who are teaching in middle school and high school. They will be teaching, some of them are teaching, like they'll be more content specific, focused on, for example, science. So I have a science teacher, but she may also teach a financial lit class. I have another teacher who is a teacher of the deaf who's teaching English language arts, and she's got some math classes. I have another teacher up in Ogden who is coincidentally, she's on the list, but she's just finished all of her course requirements to become now a math endorsed teacher. So this is to get their endorsements for the other topics that they teach that are specific to our students. So they're deaf ed and they're teaching math, they're deaf ed and they're teaching science, they're deaf ed and they're teaching LA. We don't have the resources to have someone who has deaf ed, which is so critical for our students, and a specialty in this other area. So we do have a few that have deaf ed and math. And so that was and like I said, the one individual that we have on the list has passed that, so shouldn't be on the list after this month. But we're just trying to get all those approvals so that they are qualified for the classes and courses they are currently teaching. And I've worked with Malia to get this done. We've identified this with HR, so we know the individuals and the courses that they're teaching.
Thank you. I'm looking at the quality of your teachers. 30 years of teaching, 14 years of teaching, graduating from Gallaudet, master's program. You have some high quality teachers here. That's an amazing list of people. Do you have
They
any
certainly
questions?
are. Yeah, I should say that they all have master's degrees. I think there was one that was working on his, but the rest of them have master's degrees.
Yeah,
Lots of years experience.
lots of experience. That's amazing. All right, any questions to this? Member Davis,
I was just going to make the motion.
please, that would be welcomed.
I move that the committee approve the LEA specific licenses as requested. The writing's moving, so I move that the committee approve the LEA specific licenses as requested and forward to the board for final approval.
Thank you. The motion is that the committee approve the LEA specific licenses as requested and forward to the board for final approval. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, our next one is action 3.5, action 8.24, parent review of curriculum and instructional materials. And I know I brought this, requested this be brought back to us with some additional information on the review committee. Superintendent Nelson, would you like to speak to the changes?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Thank you, Chairwood. You're correct. This is draft 2 that we're bringing forward today, and it's informed by a previous discussion by this committee that included, and for those who are driving, we're on actually the parent review of curriculum and instructional materials and complaint policy 8.24. When we brought this originally, it lacked enough specificity to please the board around the appeals process. And we also, in reviewing that, added a little more specificity around the selection, the committee that would be selected to help us with the adoption of curriculum materials. So I leaned back into our policy 8.22, Educational Resource Center Collection Development Materials Review Policy, which is oftentimes in LAs, it's their library or media policy, it might be identified as. And you may recall just a few years ago, there were a lot of legislative actions and board rules developed around library materials and resources that we have in our schools. So that policy has been reviewed fairly recently, and it includes great detail about appealing decisions made by the school or a committee in the school related to materials, reading materials that their children would have access to. So if we go to section 4, 4.1.1, I've added that the committee be organized under the direction of the associate superintendent. That's consistent with what we've been doing previous to having this policy. What would be new, it would consist of USDB educators and interested parents serving as subcommittee members for USDB Advisory Council. So you'll notice that the recommendations I'm bringing today are trying to leverage processes and groups that have been established under the direction of the board for the Schools for the Deaf and Blind and the Advisory Council, USDB Advisory Council parents. In additionally, those 8 members that were discussed just recently that serve to help develop the school community, the school land trust plan and service subcommittee to the school community council. If we scroll down a little bit further to section 6, this is where I tried to follow the model of what we have in place around library materials. So we have the requirement that it's a formal complaint, that it's submitted in writing so that we can examine and evaluate the specificities and remove any gray area around what it is that the parent's concerned about. 6.2.3, committee to be organized under the direction of the principals, associate superintendent, and consist of at least one administrator an educator licensed to teach and the content of the curriculum being reviewed. Remember, this is a material that's different than library materials. This is the curriculum that it'd be purchased or used across the grade and content area. Educator licensed to teach the content, and a number of parents of USDB campus students that are reflective of the school community that exceeds the number of USDB employees serving on the committee by at least one. So we haven't identified the size that the committee needs to be to review this complaint, but we have acknowledged that it's important in policy practice that exceeds that the committee is made up of more parents than educators. I think that's pretty common in a lot of policies related to parent engagement. Committee will determine the amount of time needed. Again, we haven't defined that because there's so many variables in what can happen in terms of a type of complaint that could come. We've listed that 30 days are preferable, but it should be completed at least within 60 days. And that the administrator will notify the complainant who submitted the complaint of the timeline. So between the 30 days are ideal and the maximum that the complaint would be informed once that timeline's been established. Under 6.3, that there is an opportunity for public comment regarding the material. And we're leaning into, and this our recommendation to the board is that we would lean into the USDB's advisory council, again, which is an established process for public engagement, in addition to the standing committee that we're in today in a full board meeting. Public comment would be recorded, made available to the review committee within 48 hours. That's a practice. We already record those meetings and post those on our YouTube channel. The full content of those, and then that the review committee will provide a written report detailing the findings and final recommendation, again, back to the USDB Advisory Council in a regularly scheduled meeting. The reason for that is, again, I've just tried to align with what is in place for the Educational Resource Center or media complaints. Obviously, that's an area that the board could make a change and have that be more directly connected to the Utah State Board of Education. And then the appeal process, if the complaint's dissatisfied with the recommendation from the review committee, can file a formal appeal. There's a little timeline in there. This is again a decision for a discussion point, probably for the board, whether you would want the superintendent to be the appeal party or whether you'd want that to be in policy that it would come back to the board. The reason I'm recommending the superintendent position is that the board is always a due process body for issues related to parent complaints for the schools for the deaf and blind, because you serve as the local education authority for the school. So that's just an overview of these additional changes that were incorporated into our draft policy, and that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. I appreciate all the added clarity that is there. It's very, very helpful. And I feel like now it really does, when we had the comment in there about transparency, it does provide that now. Any comments or questions, concerns, amendments to this? Member Booth.
I would like to make a motion.
Yes.
All right. That the committee approve the parents' review of curriculum and instructional materials policy, draft 1 on first reading, and forward to the board for approval on second and final reading.
Right. The motion is that the committee approve the parents' review of curriculum and instructional materials policy, draft 1 on first reading, and forward to the board for approval on second and final reading. And I am not seeing any hands. Someone try to unmute. Nope. All right, we'll move ahead with the vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes. Thank you. Our next item is 3.6, 6.19 student search and seizure. And I have both Dr. Tanner and Dr. Nelson on here. Please, whatever, like to speak to this.
Well, I'm happy to introduce it, and then Dr. Tanner's done a bulk of the work on preparing the draft policy. This is a policy that is new. The underlining isn't showing up here, but just know this is a new policy to schools for the deaf and blind. The need for this was identified in our audit of existing policies and requirements. And so that's why this policy is coming before you today. Dr. Tanner, I'll turn over you to talk about the specifics as you'd like.
This policy, we began with looking at the alignment with the state board and the policies that are available. We also reached out to other schools that have their policies to make sure they're in alignment with that. And finally, the other piece that was important to our school is that it taken the component of cottages, residential programming, because we also house students. And so we have to make sure that we're following all search and seizure type requirements and making sure we're following that. So if you have any questions specific to the policy, please let me know. I'd be happy to answer them.
All right. I had a question regarding the definition of, and I'm afraid I have like 17 tabs open on my computer because I'm trying to find. So in the model policy put out by USBE, they have a specific definition for the appropriate school leader. It's rather long, but I'm wondering if you feel like that's needed or with the language that's already in. Sorry, I was trying to find, I had it all lined up properly this morning and now it's not here. Apologize. Okay, so you have this section under, here we go. Searches. The roles and search administrative safeguards. It appears you've taken the model policy and kind of broken it down in that definition, but do you think it would be appropriate to add an appropriate school official definition? And have you seen that model policy?
We did. That's where
there?
Yeah, we did start with that. I'd be comfortable leaving that in there. It certainly doesn't cause any problems because it just explains who the appropriate school official is. In our case, that would be whoever is in that area. Right.
Okay. Oh, I found it.
Where's your definition?
Yeah, so it's at the very beginning of the model policy. I did have a tab open. I just didn't see it. Okay, it says appropriate school official means the most appropriate school employee considering all the circumstances who should search a student. Usually the appropriate school official will be the school principal or school director. Generally, the more intrusive the search, the higher the level the appropriate school official should be who conducts the search. Other factors may include age of the student, gender of the student, if the student has an IEP, the student's background, seriousness of the items being searched for, which appropriate school official is reasonably available, and the urgency of the situation. So under our 615, it states that the superintendent will provide consistent definitions across the state. And this is one of those consistent definitions. So
I think it's a wonderful add. It just adds clarity. I mean, we have broken it down in a little bit, but I think it's a wonderful addition. It makes it so that everything's very clear.
Okay, then I will.
Chairwood, can you either put that in the probably put that in the chat, then I can copy and paste it into the motions doc.
Yep, I will do that. And I apologize that I didn't send this to you ahead of time. I was looking at these way later than I should have last night.
No worries.
Let's see if that will work. Okay. Can you see that?
Mm-hmm. Yep, I got it. Okay, so you want it as number what?
This would be under, it would be it would be a new 2.1.
Okay.
Would you prefer 2.1 and then renumber all the rest, or would you prefer 2.7? Okay.
Yeah, because they're usually in alphabetical order. Aren't these in alphabetical order? Oh, maybe they're not. RS. Yeah.
That's what I was just noticing myself.
weapons should probably be generally our definitions are in alphabetical
Yeah.
order. So I might make that recommendation that
Yeah, I
put it
agree.
in 2.1, renumber
Mhm.
and alphabetize.
Yep. Good catch.
I'm going to put alphabetize and renumber. How about that?
That sounds great.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me make sure I've got this right. Add a new definition. So it's just to section 2. Stating, there's the definition. This becomes a comma. And then alphabetize and renumber the definitions. Is that the
Yes, that's
correct
perfect.
motion?
Yep. All right. Any discussion to adding that definition?
I think that provides good clarity. Thank you.
All right. The motion is to add the definition for appropriate school official. Means the most appropriate school employee, considering all the circumstances, who should search a student. Usually the appropriate school official will be the school principal or school director. Generally, the more intrusive the search, the higher the level the appropriate school official should be who conducts the search. Other factors may include age of the student, gender of the student, if the student has an IEP, the student's background, seriousness of the items being searched for, which appropriate school official is reasonably available, and the urgency of the situation. Then we'll alphabetize and renumber the definitions. All in favor say aye.
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 All right. Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes unanimously. Okay, the other change that I had was to strike lines 1.3. I think we're trying, as we move forward, we're trying to get rid of some of just the statements of, I like the 1 and 2.1.1, 1.2 that give the very clear purpose of the policy, but to strike lines 1.3. So
That's a board's preference. Yeah.
Yeah, I just moving out of kind of I don't even know the right word to describe it, but kind of more of that being very direct and here's the law,
Right.
here's why we're doing
Yeah.
it. So
Yeah.
Is there any comments to that? Any concerns with striking 1.3?
Good idea.
All right, we'll go ahead and move to strike the words in 1.3. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed?
No.
Cindy says no. Okay, one no. So that is, and I think we're all still here, right? Erin, you're still here. I know everyone's driving. I think we have
Yes, I'm still here.
Perfect. Okay, so that's 4-1. All right. And then I just had a question regarding, I think it's the law enforcement 10.2. It says when outside law enforcement initiates or directs a search primarily for law enforcement investigative purposes, the applicable constitutional criminal procedure standards may apply. What happens if they don't apply? And I don't have a change to this. I'm just trying to understand it. If I'm a staff member, how I read this.
What to? I know we always defer to the officers, so I agree with you that may sounds. I'd have to be an attorney to understand what actual criminal procedure standards apply when it does and doesn't.
That was my concern. Like that's what I felt like. I felt like I need to be a lawyer to understand.
Mm-hmm.
and And I do have a concern about our policies being such that if I'm staff and I don't
Right.
have to be a lawyer to understand it.
Looks
I
like it looks like in the context of this, it's saying requiring probable cause in many contexts, but I wouldn't know those kind of things. If I should say, an officer comes to school and says they need to search, we let them search.
Yeah, do we have, I know, AAG
Superintendent
Bill,
Nielsen came off screen too. He may have
okay,
something he wants to add.
thank you. Superintendent Nelson, or
Yeah.
I'd love some input from our AAG once you're finished, if they're willing.
Yeah, my perspective isn't necessarily from a legal one, but it is from a school leadership one, and that is that we would expect police-led searches when directed by law enforcement that applicable constitutional criminal procedure standards must apply. Like that would be our expectation from a policy standpoint. Even though we might not know the details of that, we're establishing in this policy the expectation. And it's probably a shared expectation with law enforcement that these protections that are put in place for citizens with legal search around police, that those things would apply on our campuses as the law allows as well.
Okay, I appreciate that clarification. AAG Bill, do you have any comments to this 10.2?
Yeah, I was just gonna say the same. I was just gonna say either changing that may to a must or a shall, or simply eliminating the word and just saying that they apply. Their standards apply, I think is probably the simplest way to do that.
Okay, all right, thank you. Member Davis, to this discussion or something else?
Yes, I move that we change the word may to must in item 10.2.
Okay.
Sorry, not must, to shall.
All right, so
If that's consistent with what we're using.
yeah, so then it will read, when outside law enforcement initiates or directs a search primarily for law enforcement investigative purposes, the applicable constitutional criminal procedural standards shall apply, often requiring probable cause and in many contexts a warrant. USDB staff will defer to law enforcement for the legal standard and will coordinate through administration. That makes me feel better. So thank you. Any comments to this? All right, we'll go ahead with a vote. The motion is to change the word may to the word shall in section 10.2. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion passes unanimously. All right, those were my questions. Sorry to take over. Did anyone else have any questions related to this policy? Seeing none, we'll go ahead. Does anyone want to move a motion forward?
I would move that the committee approve the student search and seizure policy draft 1 as amended on first reading and forward to the board for approval on second and final reading.
Thank you. The motion is that the committee approve the student search and seizure policy draft 1 on first reading and forward to the board for approval on second and final reading. Seeing no hands, we'll move ahead with the vote. All in favor? Say aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion passes unanimously. Thank you. We'll move to item 3.7, action R277-800, Utah Schools for the Deaf and the Blind. And we have Jennifer Wadsworth and Darren Nelson, whoever would like to speak to this.
Either one, I'm fine with. Superintendent Nielsen, if you'd like to go ahead and jump on it.
Yeah, go ahead. Thank you, Jennifer.
So with the passage of House Bill 448, we needed to make some updates to 800 just to better align with the new code that's come in place. Most of the changes have occurred around cleaning up definitions and procedures and processes, designating USBE as an agency of USBE as it's now designated in code. Trying to think what are some big ones. We included the advisory council is in there and facility oversight. So this is draft 2. There were a few cleanups that needed to be made. I'm so sorry it came in very, very early this morning. But if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
All right. So I had some questions. Now that I did all my homework on draft 1. So if I'm asking questions and they've been fixed, I apologize. On lines 215 to 216, the student counts described in section 15A categorized by eligibility type and LEA of record. This is not about the policy. It's just a question more for my benefit. Are we defining the categories so they're consistent across the state? Because one of those problems that we had with data was that it appeared that districts and LEAs weren't always using the same terms. So when we were counting students, that they didn't always make our count. Have we started having some consistent, and this is probably a Superintendent Nelson or Dr. Tanner question, are we starting to have consistent categories across the state so that we know all students are being counted appropriately?
Well, that's anytime we use the word all, that gets really challenging to answer with precision. We have been working both with the Utah School Board's data and statistics team, and then within our own environment at the Schools for the Deaf and Blind to establish systems for reporting data, as well as I'll give an example of the flag. One of the problems that was identified in I think it was the internal audit, was inability for us to validate outreach data with the LEAs who have students who are receiving outreach services from the Utah Schools for the Deaf and Blind. So we've been working through the appropriate channel to try to get a flag included in the UTREX data submission that then each LEA and their student information system would have, that they would select that flag that would identify one of their students as receiving outreach services. So that's an example of where we continue to try to improve and address inconsistencies, both in system challenges as well as human error challenges that we can face.
Great, thank you for that. I appreciate the work that's being done in that, because I know that has been a concern. Jennifer, can you point out, because I'm failing to find draft 2, and I know it's not uploaded to our backup. Can you point out specific changes that were made between draft 1 and draft 2 while I continue
I can.
to try to find
I
it?
do know it is in the Google Drive, and I apologize, it should be in backup, but it is in the Google Drive. But I would be happy to walk you through the specific changes. There's not very many of them. A lot of them are technical, so I'll walk you through the ones that were the most substantial. The first one is on line 73 with the definition of designated LEA. There was some confusion around the terms designated LEA and LEA of record. So we altered the definition of designated LEA to be more consistent with the process of how an LEA is designated for a student attending USDB. And then we included a definition on line 100 for LEA of record, which we just aligned with code. So the definition of that refers to where that can be found in code. Tell me if I'm going too fast.
No, that's a great update. Thank you.
Okay,
Because the
great.
designated LEA did cause me pause. So that's
Yes,
awesome.
it
Thank
got
you.
very confusing, especially for our finance team as well. In finance, designated LEA of record and designated LEA were very different, so we needed the delineation. On line 159, there was some confusion about how the appointment for the USDB superintendent was being read. So we clarified to better match code that the superintendent shall appoint the USDB superintendent subject to approval of the board. And then the superintendent will supervise the USDB superintendent, and the superintendent will report to the superintendent. So lots of words with superintendent there going back and forth. Hopefully that one's a little bit more clear to understand. Then the next one is online farther down. Okay, and this is where it gets very confusing. Line 283. And this is almost word for word exact with code. We've tried to make it a little bit easier to understand, but beginning July 1st of 27, if USDB is a student's designated LEA, this is the agreement with the LEA of record that is laid out in code for how that student's funding will follow them. And I believe those are the main changes. I think everything else is already in draft one.
Great. Thank you so much. Good.
No problem. Yeah.
Dr. Tanner.
Thank you. I just have had a question, and I don't quite fully understand. So my question is in earnest. On this one, the one that's up on the screen, I've been wondering about that because when we become the designated LEA, the student is no longer enrolled at the other school. So my question has always been, it says the student's LEA of record shall include the student in the LEA's average daily membership. I'm questioning how that's going to happen because they're no longer, when they're with us, enrolled with that LEA, so they have no record of the student. So they wouldn't get the funding, so therefore wouldn't be able to give us 95% of the funding. I could understand if they were enrolled October 1 and they came to us after October 1 because they would have gotten the funding and then turned 95% over to us, right? But at this point, if they've started the school year with us or they've been attending in our school for a number of years, the designated LEA doesn't have them on an average daily attendance anywhere. They come to us, we notify the special education director, and they make sure they show up the IEPs every year so that we can constantly keep in contact. They know the progress is going on the IEP, but I've always questioned this because I'm not sure how they would get that funding. They wouldn't get it to even pass it back to us. They would only get it if they had the student on October 1, and then the determination was made after that date during that school year to come to USDB. So that's a question I have. And I know it's already in code and everything. I just didn't know how that's going to work. So operationally, I would like to understand it.
I love that question because I wondered the same thing. Do we know? Maybe is this a Dr. Voorhees question as you deal with with special ed?
So there is, I don't know that I'm the right person, Leah Voorhees, Deputy Superintendent, but there is a provision in R277 419. Jen and I just looked at it on Friday that allows for split enrollment so that a student can be enrolled into LEAs and that is probably what the legislature was thinking, but I can't speak for them. And I shouldn't speak for Deputy Jones. Assistant Superintendent Jacobson might have more information, but there is a provision in rule to allow for a student to be enrolled in more than one LEA.
Dual enrollment.
Well, actually, dual enrollment, it's called split enrollment. Dual enrollment is enrolled in a public LEA and in a private or home LEA. So it's same idea, but they are different defined terms in rule.
Do you have any clarification? Deborah Jacobson?
Yeah, I think I can help a little bit with this. So when we send out estimates or when schools are funded, they're based off of estimates for the next year. The October 1 head count is actually so LEAs start receiving funding at the year based on prior year ADM. So once we start a new year and students are identified, the October 1 head count is what determines where the student finally ended up. So to Dr. Tanner's question, if a student was if another LEA was the designated LEA for a particular student, and they came to USDB and are now, USDB is the designated LEA. The October 1 head count is what's going to drive that, and the funding the LEA was receiving now has to come to USDB.
After October 1. So it's a
Yes.
matter of, so if they're already with us, they were here last year, the year before,
Correct.
that's not going to affect any of this. It's only the students that are on October 1 were with their LEA of record or wherever they were, and now they've transferred to USDB after October 1.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that answer. It helps me.
Leanne, you're muted.
Thank you. I'm just going to keep talking. So I'm not sure the new lines. It's under the section 4. And if you go to, I'm in the right place, 226, 227, yeah, around 227, you scroll up a little, or I guess it's down to, can you look around lines 227? Whoever's driving. Okay, yep, we're in section 4 and it's section 2B. So you've gone too far. Okay.
So if you're looking at 4-2B in
Yeah.
draft 2, that's line 240.
All right, 240, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Yes, so USDB, so this is in our discussion with and we've postponed this policy discussion, and I'm not sure, and maybe Jennifer, you can help me with timing of this. USDB shall limit its services for students who are school age to those on an IEP or Section 504 accommodation plan, except as otherwise provided for the enrollment of hearing siblings under R277-800-9. This specific line would prohibit our post-high bridges program, would it not? If anyone can clarify this for me.
So sorry. I personally don't believe that it would, but now that you're bringing it up, I'm questioning it.
Because it's specific to who are school age.
Mm-hmm. And the post-high bridges are not school age. That could probably use an amendment.
But it's kind of that timing, right? Because we're in the discussion of right now, whether right now we are allowing it. We're trying to do a lot of homework, a lot of deep dive in to decide if we're going to continue to allow it.
You could continue the rule as it stands today, and then if you decide to continue the Bridges program, amend the rule.
But as it stands right now, our Bridges program could not be functioning, and it is functioning.
Moving forward. Moving forward.
Yeah. Anyone have guidance on this that you'd like to offer? And what is school age? Is school age defined somewhere?
Could I just ask a question? I thought that students on an IEP receiving special services, that those could continue up until age 21 or 22. Is that not right?
That is accurate, but we have been doing this deep dive into students who are not on an IEP.
Oh, okay.
That's my concern here. But is there a definition for school age?
I'm currently looking for one really quickly. I'll get right back to you. I am not seeing a definition for school age.
Would it, Matt,
Yes.
I've always considered school age, and Superintendent Patton can jump in, or Superintendent Nielsen, but it's K through 12.
Yeah,
That's how we've defined it. And I mean, that's how we've always defined it as K through 12. It hasn't been preschool. So,
right. Oh, wait a minute. Are all of your are all of your preschool? There's the other end of it, and this would be for the school for the deaf.
Preschool.
Are all of your preschool students on IEPs?
most, but not all.
All this is Superintendent Patton. Yes, all of the blind kids are on IEPs for preschool.
For some of my students, they're on, since 504 doesn't actually kick in until kindergarten age. We have always, and I have to look through the language. I know it's been in there, been in board rule, but it's a preschool service plan. It's what the preschool students are on that are not, school age begins at 5. So that's when section 504 kicks in. So they call them preschool service plans. And there's very few of the students in preschool that are on a preschool service plan, but there are, most of them are on IEPs.
But even these 3 lines are not accurate to what's happening at our school right now. Because our preschools are not considered school age. We are providing services, and they are not, some of your students are not on an IEP or Section 504 yet.
Right.
That would be correct.
So it appears to me that regardless, from our young and our old, something needs to change in these 3 lines. And I'm open to support to make
Elise, Chair, Elise Newey just dropped some codes into the chat.
Oh, thank you.
We could look at those.
Yeah, I was going to say, Chair, I think the key here is your first question about the definition of school age. So we do provide services to students who are outside of what would be considered school age. I believe school age is based on the kindergarten requirements to enter a public education system, which is 5 on or before September 1, or turn 5 on or before September 1 of the year you enter school, and then I don't know the code, but I think it ends at 18 years old, the definition of school-aged a child. So
Right.
if that were true, then this statement doesn't necessarily cause us problems, because within that window of school age, all of the students would be on a 504 and IEP, except for this provision allowed for hearing siblings.
Well, we just talked about preschool students who are not on 504s. So that would be outside of that range.
Yeah, they wouldn't fit what I believe is the definition of school age, much like the services we provide to our parent infant program, birth to.
Okay, so it's
You
kind
see what
of
I'm saying?
where we're having where we're putting our influx. So we will limit our services for students who are school age to those on an IEP or Section 504 plan.
Yes.
Kind of where the
Yeah, and if there's not a legal definition of school age, the board could put that in your rule that you're defining what the school age limit
Well,
is.
so Elise said school age means a minor from 53G-6-201. School age means a minor who is at least 6 years old, but younger than 18 years old and is not emancipated. So there is an official statute definition to school age. So, okay, so maybe I'm making a mountain out of a molehill. Sorry. If that's saying it, our services within that range. So it does not apply to those that are before or after. Is that what everybody else is? And maybe I just read it wrong. I apologize for taking up so much time.
I can see where you have the question marks, because we do serve students, hearing siblings in preschool too. I think there's another section of our board rule that addresses that, because we've done that for as long as I've been here. I have not remembered any different plan of action, but hopefully that's somewhere else in board
Yeah.
rules so it's not lost. But I
Yeah.
do remember that.
It is under there. I think at the very end, even in this role, we talk about those students that are enrollment of siblings is 800-9.
Well, I was thinking in preschool. I just because that's what I think it was different in preschool. It allowed for it or something.
Oh,
Yeah, that's what I was. That's what there
okay.
was actually something I recall, and I don't have it in front of me, but I do remember that that was the case, that we did have the opportunity to have hearing siblings, and in fact that's what we've been doing that for. I can't even remember time we haven't done that, where hearing siblings couldn't attend as long as we had the space and capacity to do it. Like, for example, in our Salt Lake campus, we've been packed for so long, we haven't been able to do that in a number of years, whereas other campuses have been able to allow that in preschool. So I think it's captured somewhere. Maybe Jennifer Wadsworth can find it later, but I just want to make sure that that didn't change.
Okay. Would it be, and this is policy language, so Elise or Jennifer, would it be inappropriate to put for students who are school age, comma, USDB shall limit its services so that it's not, and then would that, I don't know if that's proper policy language, but it would clarify that the statement is specific to those who are school age and not to those preschool students. Jennifer,
Yes, yes.
any thoughts
Sorry, I
there?
had a hard time connecting. Yes, we can do that.
Is that appropriate policy language?
Yes.
Okay, then I would make that motion just to clarify it for the future people who are reading it.
Can you re-articulate that motion, Chair Wood?
Yeah, if you go to that language, it's just taking that middle part for students who are school age, putting that at the beginning of the sentence.
Okay.
For students who are school age, comma, USDB shall limit its services to those on an IEP or Section 504 accommodation plan. And then we'll have to do some research to make sure that we have that that preschool language somewhere.
Okay. Does that look right? I'll fix.
Yeah. For students who are school age, UTA shall limit its services to those on IEP spectrum except as otherwise provided for the enrollment of hearing siblings. Yep, that's great. And then Elise has recommended that we use the 53G-6201 school age definition, that would be helpful. Would you put that under school age as a definition, Elise, or would you put it, please feel free to unmute if that would be helpful, if you can. Or would you just refer back to 53G-6-201?
Sorry, Chair. This is Elise Newey, Deputy Superintendent. You could do either one. It would really just depend on the style of the policies. If you all tend to have definitions at the beginning, or we could just cite it right in there.
Could we just put it up in the definition where it says school age means this, and then how do you always refer back to that code? Do you want to write that up?
Yeah, as defined in.
Okay.
Or I think the way that the motion's written right now, you could do for students who are school age as defined in 53G 6201, comma, and that would work as well.
Okay.
Especially if you don't use it again in the policy, if that's the only reference.
Yeah, I think so. Okay. All right, I'll stick with that. Thank you for your help. Thanks. Thank you, everyone, for your patience with me. All right, I move to rearrange the sentence in lines 240-242 to read for students who are school age as defined in 53G-6-201. USDB shall limit its services to those on an IEP or Section 504 accommodation plan, except as otherwise provided for the enrollment of hearing siblings under R277-800-9. Are there any comments to this motion? Not seeing any. We'll go ahead and vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion passes unanimously. All right, I think that was all my questions. Any comments to this, or we have a motion? Anyone prepared to make a motion for this draft?
Sure, I can do it. I'm just reading it right here in red.
Yep.
Okay, sorry, it's moving. It's hard for me to follow. I make motion to approve R277-800 Utah Schools for the Deaf and the Blind Draft 2 as amended on the first reading and forward to the board for continuation approval on the second and final.
Thank you. And the motion is that the committee approve R277-800 Utah Schools for the Deaf and Blind Draft 2 as amended on first reading and forward to the board for continuation and approval on second and final reading. Seeing no hands, we'll go ahead and vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion passes unanimously. All right, then we're just moving to our informational phase. Superintendent Nelson, do you want to talk to any of your highlights from the legislative session?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'm happy to do that. And I just want to note also, Chair, that this is identified as an action item. And in the civic clerk, there's some draft language there. So I'll just give some information, and I'm going to tie back to the rule that was just updated with the passage of House Bill 448. In section 810 of the rule we just talked about, there's language that says the board shall oversee the long-term planning, development, and review of capital facilities for USDB in coordination with the Division of Facilities Construction Management, and that before seeking funding for new capital facilities, the board shall conduct an exhaustive review of available LEA facilities and consider opportunities for shared space. So I think as Chair Wood and I talked about this in a previous discussion, the board is in a place now to move forward. Whereas before House Bill 448, there might have been some confusion and lack of clarity around the specific role and actions that the board can take related to facility needs that the Schools for the Deaf and Blind have. I've attached to this item in backup two documents. One is a audit summary from an April 2023 space utilization by USDB audit that includes some specific recommendations. And then I've also attached to this agenda item a backup, a USDB strategic facilities plan that was developed before my assignment here. And perhaps if there are questions related to that specifically, we have staff here that would be able to speak to it. I'm going to highlight some of the recommendations from the OLAG audit related to space utilization. And you'll see that some of these have already come to pass. One, with the passage of House Bill 448. So the first recommendation from that audit was that the Utah Schools for the Deaf and Blind maintain a statewide plan for facilities before any capital development request is made. The schools should be able to demonstrate to the legislature how their request can be reasonably supported by the plan. This audit was triggered by, as I read it, again, I wasn't attending to the needs of the schools for the deaf and blind in 2023 with my other responsibilities, but as I read this, it was triggered because of funding requests that had come forward and been approved by the legislature from the schools for the deaf and blind related to building needs. And then subsequent to that approval, there were some changes made to the plan or the purpose of those funds being requested. And so that triggered concerns at the legislative level. So you'll see references to plans throughout these recommendations. Number two, we recommend that the legislature consider clarifying statute to require the schools for the deaf and blind be subject to the full divisions of facilities construction management processes. Number three, we recommend that the legislature consider releasing the funds to build a new high school for the schools for the deaf and the blind after additional planning has been completed. Remembering that there were funds set aside by the legislature, and I believe those funds are still being held for the purposes and needs of our children in Utah that receive services on campus from the schools for the deaf and blind. Number four, we recommend that the legislature consider whether entities should be required to seek additional approval to make significant changes to capital development projects after the project has been funded by the legislature. So that's a nod back to what created the concern and drove the audit in the first place. And then number five, we recommend that the legislature consider whether to fund permanent space for the Southern Utah School for the Deaf after the school provides additional analysis. So again, planning that needs to be put in place. There are certainly needs that we have across the state, particularly in the Salt Lake area. That building was identified as having some limited lifespan related to that, and Dr. Tanner's mentioned some needs there as well. And there have previously been discussions about getting permanent space in Washington County to serve the students in that region of the state. And details about that are included in the USDB Strategic Facilities Plan document that's been put into backup. So that concludes my comments on this. I'm certainly happy to address questions and support the board's discussion around next steps related to advancing the board's responsibilities around facilities needs.
Thank you. Member Brinton, comments to this?
Yes, I want to talk about the Washington County. I don't know if you want to go in order, so I know that was last on the list, but I'd like to just ask that we get an update on that. So from my understanding, and so for those of you who haven't visited in Washington County, the preschool and elementary are in modular buildings, and I think they're outgrowing their needs there, and it's small, and it is right next to Bloomington Hills Elementary, where Washington County has given a piece of land for no charge where they can build a school that would house all of their schools needs, and hopefully be able to grow into that. The high school is out 20 miles away, 15, 20 miles away on the other side of town by Snow Canyon High School, where the high school students go. And so I know in the studies, it looks like it would be so much more efficient for them to all be housed in one building and have access to all of the Desert Hills Cone site that is right across the street with the middle school and the high school and the elementary school there. So I just wondered if we could talk about where we are on that. So.
Can you speak to that, Superintendent Nelson?
I can speak briefly to that because during my time here, in fact, it was in the last month when I was down visiting our programs in Southern Utah, took some opportunity to meet with the special education director in Washington County School District, and then subsequently had a call that included the business administrator and the director of facilities. I might not have that title correct, but a team of individuals representing Washington School County, and just for the purpose of having an introductory conversation letting them know that with House Bill 448 likely to pass at that time, that it might generate additional interest from our board. So the lot that is, remember Britton is talking about is still available. We didn't talk about whether Washington County School District was still interested in donating that. Their recollection of the discussions previously, there's a 22,435 square feet is what that lot size is. They had mentioned that they believed there were some concerns with the size of that lot, maybe not being sufficient for the school to be built there. But as Board Member Britton indicated, the location in terms of being next to an elementary school, within walking distance across a busy street, but nonetheless within walking distance of a middle school and a high school where we could do shared enrollment and utilize space and programs. Our students could utilize programs that are available on those campuses, much like we do here in Ogden with Ben Lomond, where we have students that are able to walk over there during the day and participate in some of the academic programs. That's still a possibility. It's still available. And again, if we go back to the original audit from OLAG, it's really trying to work through the needs that exist currently and the plans, developing an ongoing long-term building plan. I believe there were also questions at the time of that audit with some of the enrollment numbers that the USDB had been reporting. And we, again, our prerequisite then to good planning is good data. And so we have been continually through this year through the processes of improving our data quality so that the board can use that more effectively in any long-term planning efforts that you want to direct.
Thank you. Member Brinton, did you have any follow-up questions to that? Or was that helpful?
That's helpful. Thank you. I follow-up would be just wondering about how sufficient the services are and the facilities that they have now, because both schools are in modular facilities all the way across town. And I know maybe there was a concern with the enrollment numbers, but I just appreciate the update on that and want to just help them move forward. And as I understand it, the agreement for that piece of land was that the former superintendent, Bergeson, had said he would give that land for $1 or something. So.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to move to Member Davis, and then if Superintendent Nielsen has any follow-up to that, we'll go ahead with that. Member Davis.
Well, mine is on the Salt Lake campus, so I don't know if you want to finish with hers or if you want me to go ahead and then go back to Joanne later. Do you
The
want me to move
question would
forward?
be, well, I guess it would be a quick, Superintendent Nielsen, do you feel that those current spaces are adequate, or do you see the need to move forward on some additional space for our St. George campuses?
Yeah, so in terms of adequate, I'm going to qualify my statement as adequate in terms of space, right? Quality of the space could be debated for sure, especially when you're receiving services in a modular. I felt that way as a building principal, that modulars were never my preferred learning environment for a number of reasons, including in today's environment, school safety. But in terms of space, both of those spaces are able to meet our current enrollment needs at this time.
Okay, thank you. All right, go ahead, Member Davis.
Thank you. I apologize if I missed this. I had to slip out for a minute, but in the piece where you asked for the funds to be released to build the Salt Lake campus, there was an additional piece there that said, what is the additional planning that would be needed or that it would be contingent upon? Because I know a lot of planning has been done. We've had outside audits. We've had legislators tour the campus. We as board members, several of us have toured the campus. We've gotten, different sort of blueprints, ideas. what additional planning needs to happen before those funds should be released?
Yeah, and the OLAG audit itself doesn't define specific steps. And I think the work that's been done since that audit in 2023 and the USDB Strategic Facilities Plan that was published in 2025, I think that certainly would meet what general expectations would be related to additional planning needs. The audit also recommended that we highlight instructional space rather than specialty space. Whether that is something that we would need to do or not, I don't know. That was, again, one of the recommendations in the audit. I can tell you for the Salt Lake campus, whatever plans were put in place originally, the Department of Facilities Construction Management continues to move forward. I believe there was a certain amount of dollars that were set aside to purchase additional property next to the campus. There are 3 homes that are adjacent to our property that sit on 3300 South. One of those homes recently became available, and the state of Utah purchased that home with the intentions, again, of purchasing the other 2 homes when they can get access to those, which then would expand the footprint of the campus there. Parking has been a problem in that area. There's also a home site that is owned by the state of Utah on the northeast corner of the property that is available. The home itself is not usable for anything other than storage and a place to park the truck with the snowplow on it. But there's efforts that are continuing, that initiated well before I came here, that are continuing to try to create a condition on that campus footprint where a reconstruction could take place. Again, whether that would be the board's plan and execute this going forward is really, again, just up to trying to decide what process would the board like to use to get into a position to make a recommendation, building recommendation to the legislature and get access to those funds, and also determine whether any additional funds would be needed to complete a construction project that would be determined by the board. There is a requirement, again, in 448 now, that before going to the legislature for a request for building money, the board would need to hold a public meeting where that could be discussed.
Thank you. May I follow up just quickly, Chair?
Yes, please.
If they have asked for additional understandings on, instructional space, this doesn't necessarily have to do with space and size, but when I was there, I was concerned at those exposed ventilation pieces and systems, and they're so loud, and I would think that those would not be good for instruction, particularly like with LSL types of instruction. But just a note to keep in your back pocket if we do need to make additional reports and such. Thank you for all the information.
Member Booth?
Thank you, Chair Wood. I would be very interested in seeing an update on or a review of what the recommendations were after they sent that recommendation from OLAG that we needed additional planning. I would just like to know where we're at. What do our assistant superintendents who have been with the program through these intervening years, what adjustments would they like to make that might prioritize the needs, the physical facility needs that they currently have? And what, we just need to know, where are we right now then in terms of facilities and the planning that's been done? What would be the recommendation as to what should be taking place first, so that we can get on this and begin to move forward?
Thank you. And I think this may be the time to introduce my motion that I had put forward that was in backup. I would like to see a work group developed outside of this, because of this committee. Our main work as we work through this committee once a month is to take these policies to the board and have them approved so that we can have updated policies for our programs and the care for our students. I would love to see us meet as an outside group where we and I guess I'll put my motion and then speak to it, that the committee recommend the board create a board working group to discuss USDB facility needs and bring recommendations to the full board in October. What I'd like to see is DFCM be on this committee, our associate superintendents, our superintendent, board members in this committee that are of interest, but also other board members who might be of interest to, and that we travel, we go to the 4 sites, we review these 2 documents that are in backup, but there's also 2 outside entities that have provided input. There was a Dickinson report and then another, and I don't remember the second report, that are not in backup that have also been done, and look at all of those things and create a single recommendation for USDB as a whole, that we've done our homework and bring a policy forward. So anyway, anyone care to speak to that recommendation? Any concerns or comments that you'd have, or other ways you'd like to see it done? Member Davis.
I think it may need to be fleshed out a little more before it goes to the full board, as far as including the DFCM members and the assistant superintendents and such. So you could have up to 7 board members on a committee. Would first priority be given to those who are on this committee, who are working with USDB, and then would the other 2 be assigned by like Chair Hymas or you as the chair of this committee, or how would those decisions be made? Assuming it would be voluntary. Some members of this committee may say, let other board members have my spot so they can get more involved.
Yeah, I saw it more as those who were wanting and had the time and effort and desire. So more of a personal desire to get into it. As I've said before, every question with USDB has an hour and a half answer minimum. And so some may not have the time or capacity at this time to go into a deep dive, and they may not want to use their summer in that in that manner. So
Sure.
that was my intent. I just feel like it's time. We did have that 30 million that was kind of released and then taken back. As far as I know, it's still sitting there in capital funds at the legislature. We had a plan ready to present to EAC in December of 2024. It was on the agenda and it wasn't even listened to. And that was when we found that the legislature was looking at some of our funding that I don't want to say mismanaged, because it wasn't mismanaged. It was just reported incorrectly, but it's led to 2 audits and all the changes in leadership over time. And so that's where it kind of everything paused at that moment. When the legislature decided that until we got our financial house in order, they were not going to provide additional funding for facilities. We've been doing good work, and it's time now to say, okay, we've got our financial house in order. Now let's get our literal house in order for these students.
May I follow up, Chair?
Yeah, and then Dr. Tanner has her hand up also. So
I agree with all that. Would you be willing to add to your motion the roles that you want included and up to how many board members, and who will make the decision if more than 7 want to participate? I don't think you're going to have that problem. But can we just be explicit with, so that we have a clear message going forward to the full board?
Absolutely. And I'd love it to be, let's wordsmith this to death, like without it being my motion. I'd love this to be a committee motion that we vote out of this committee that we're comfortable with. So please.
Well, let's put in what you mentioned. I think the representative from DFCM.
Dr. Tanner, do you want to speak to this while we're kind of working through this?
Yes, first of all, I wanted to say I really appreciate the motion for moving forward a working group. I think it's so long overdue to try to move forward with getting a building. We know that JMS is really past its lifespan. I've said this before, but my children grew up in the Hillcrest High School. They went to Hillcrest High School. That was built in 1974. That building was seen as not sufficient. They pulled that down, put up a new building. Our building at JMS is 1947. So it's really old, and it's not there's so many problems that we're hitting that it's just the lifespan is not expanding. One of which is the HVAC system that Board Member Davis described that is not great for sound quality in the classrooms for the students that are using their hearing to try to access sound. So that's problematic, and obviously the reverberation of sound in those rooms are not ideal as well. So those were never designed for that purpose. So I also thought that would be important. And Washington County also has needs. Washington County, for example, there are smaller number of students. So the idea of compacting them in one location is ideal. To have the high school students at Snow Canyon and the elementary preschool students at Bloomington Hills can be problematic for transportation. And if we have them there in that one location, that makes it advantageous to get them to middle school, high school, or preschool or elementary school if we depending on where avenue we're using. So for us, the current needs right now, we have, for example, there are a small number of students, less than 5, that are in the high school program. However, several of them are graduating, not all, but several. But it makes it difficult to staff with that small number. So we also have a large now influx of preschool students coming in next year. So we're looking at next year having the high school has gone down quite a bit, but those students have critical needs that they still need to access their education and fulfill all the requirements for graduation. And we have this now huge preschool class that we need to accommodate, but we don't have extra staff to do it. So one of the ways that we're working with Washington's school district, and they have been absolutely wonderful. They are a wonderful school district to work with. I am so grateful for the people that are there. We have agreed that what we'll do is we'll bring those students to our portable at Bloomington Hills so that our teacher can be present to teach those needs, send them off to the high school as needed, and then she can address the influx of the preschool students that are in there so that we can create staffing. So the ideal location that they've got, that piece of property out there, will allow us to continue to do that depending on the changing enrollment. So that's important. I appreciate board member Booth's questions about currently what our needs are, and I think the working group is the best way forward. We have the property just adjacent to us that in all the plans that we've seen that they have made that a parking lot. That has been a parking lot designed to be a parking lot, which I think makes best sense. So the less of intrusion on our neighbors. So that's an ideal place to start to accommodate that. I think one of the things we've talked about is, the way forward. Well, there were originally presented 3 plans. HOK was hired initially to do the study, but then they were hired later to do a capacity study or a space study of the campus. And they came up with 3 plans. And it looks like if we're purchasing property, the plan we're looking at is the 3rd plan that has us expanding the property lines. Otherwise, we're looking at plans A or B. So I just wanted to answer all the questions that were put out there and kind of the questions that were addressed. So thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you. And thank you for reminding me that HOK and Dickinson, those are our 2 reports that are additional reports to pursue. Member Longacre?
Yes, thank you. I am so grateful for this conversation. Leanne, you and I had a deep conversation about this just last month. But going back to this motion, I do want our committee here to have first priority to be in this working group. Can we add that to the motion?
Yes, I just have a question, and it's probably for AAG Bill. So our bylaws require that our committees are follow the Open and Public Meeting Act. If we have all 5 of our committee members on this board and we decide to take field trips to the 4 campuses to see what the needs are so that we can include that in our research and reports, well, we have to make those open meeting act, like record our field trips. And how do we play with this bylaw? It's not required by law for committees to be open and public, but we have required it through our bylaws. And I'm just looking at how to make it work, and not trying to do something not out in the public. I mean, we can have public come with us to our field trips, but do you have any recommendations as we look at how to build this committee and make it functional and honor our bylaws? And I'm thinking we still have her. Yeah. Hey, AG Bill, are you still here?
Yes, I am.
Did you hear, were you able to hear my question?
No, sorry, will you repeat it?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, so Member Longacre would like the committee members to have the first opportunity to volunteer for this committee. And as I was outlining, the law does not require committees to be subject to the Open and Public Meeting Act, but our bylaws do. And so if we have 5 of our members and we choose to go out and do a field trip to all 4 campuses to see what the needs are and to help us in developing these recommendations, well, we have to record those visits and provide access. And I'm not trying to not be transparent. It's just looking at how to conveniently and resourcefully do this.
Yeah, I wouldn't say so. I think our bylaws just say meetings will be held openly. They're not subject to OPMA, as you said. Um, and I don't think that going out and doing a field trip and learning more would qualify as a meeting necessarily. That would require an agenda. You're not going to be making any motions. So I think that that's absolutely fine.
Okay, if we meet as a work group, will we need to make sure that they're recorded and open if all 5 of our members are on that? So basically it's a committee plus.
It would probably be advisable. At that point, if it's committee plus, I would say it'd be advisable to record if it's a work group. Um, but going beyond the actual committee, it's kind of a tough line there with that, with your bylaws just saying the committee work will be held openly. So
Okay. Yeah, like I said, I'm not trying to be not transparent. It's just trying to figure out logistics. And sometimes um, logistics when you get with the board and making sure that we're following our bylaws and our laws. So Member Davis.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that working groups can't make any decisions. They can advise the committee, and the committee can advise the board, but only the board can move actual action into place. So I would think that would be okay. I mean, if legally that's a problem, I will give up my spot to another person so that we don't have all 5 of us if the 5 is the number. But I would like to participate otherwise if we deem it appropriate. But I think we need to add into this motion also, you had mentioned the assistant superintendents from USDB. Did you want the superintendent or just the assistant superintendents?
Well, either. I think we just say the USDB superintendency.
Oh, they can choose
Yeah,
someone to represent.
and if they all want to be there, I think we have to have at least the associate superintendents because they're going to understand the needs of their individual schools.
Yes. And then what does the committee or you or the committee feel about adding a parent of a student in JMS or an advisory board member and either a teacher or the principal?
Absolutely, I think that any of those would be helpful. So if you want to clarify all or none, or
I think a parent at JMS or an advisory board member, if we can't get a parent, and either a principal or a teacher.
so this would be or. So we have,
I think so.
okay, principal or teacher. Dr. Tanner, to this, to the
I guess you could have both, but
Yeah,
people are busy.
I was just asking because it depends on what the work group is intended to accomplish, on who you want to get there. I know as someone who is a part of the builds for Springville and a part of the build at the OEC, there is a point obviously where you create and then you hand it over, and where there's weekly meetings with the architects, you meet with all the construction workers, well, not the construction, but the construction company, things like that. So I'm like, it depends on the purpose of the work group as to how much you want to involve. And the other thing I would also add, it would be a director, because we don't have the titles principal. So anyway, that was my question.
May I, Chair Wood?
Yes, please go ahead.
I really appreciate that, because I have Salt Lake on the brain from my last motion. And this working group actually would look at several facilities.
Right.
So we may, with the understanding that parents and teachers and directors will come into the process after the initial visits, maybe we just say one advisory board member. And maybe that is added in later too. I don't know. This is the problem with thinking on your feet. I should have thought through this before this meeting. I was thinking about it. I just didn't have it fleshed out.
Yeah, go ahead, Dr. Tanner.
I was wondering if this is to establishing priorities and where we want, what we want to do first, second, third. I mean, that's what I was wondering. We'll also to be giving updates of what the status of things are with the FCM and things like that. I was thinking more along those lines. It was just keeping preliminary and then figuring out, once we determine what that is, then a whole new game goes into play. You know, that's what I was thinking, but it does advance the work. That's my thoughts. Just if you guys have a different thought, that's what I was listening to.
Yeah, and then that's where mine is really that high level of what are the needs of each of these campuses, and then what are our priorities, and then as we prioritize those needs and DFCM feels that they can be fulfilled, then it would be the time to include those outside entities to make sure we get their feedback as we move forward, especially with buildings and such like that. I think that's where I was seeing that this was more of us doing the homework and doing the deep dive into things. So, but I want people to be comfortable with this. If this motion moves forward, I want the board members to feel like, yes, this is the right group.
So may I ask you a question, Chair Wood?
Yeah.
Do you think that we should also take off the USDB advisory board member to include later, or is that whole board?
I think I would defer to our associate superintendents if they feel like that is that would be another critical voice. I mean that's obviously the legislature has prioritized this advisory council very much in defining who's on there.
Someone's having fun with the views.
Yeah, this is, I didn't know Zoom did this view.
This is the interpreter. Those deaf who are viewing this will not be able to see the interpreter from this view. Thank you.
Chair, you wanted us to answer now, or would you like us to wait?
Yeah. I mean, this is the feedback, right? Like, would it be valuable to have a USDB advisory board member on this committee?
This is Susan. There we go. And I would say yes. I think that the advisory council should be involved, and their input that they have, and they do represent a group of parents and other stakeholders that the board doesn't necessarily represent. So that I think that would be wise.
Okay.
May I ask a last follow-up?
Yep, definitely.
Who shall appoint? Is that going to be up as appointed by the superintendent in all the cases, the superintendency members and the advisory council member as appointed by the superintendent? Or is our chair going to choose that?
I would say board chair that that's up to you. I mean, that wouldn't be something that I would say anyway.
Yeah, let's do it as appointed by the board chair. That I think that's a great way to put our board leadership in as vice chair have the or chair Hymas have the final, say as to how it all comes together. I think that's a good.
Do we
Thank you.
do we want to, if I may,
Yes, go ahead.
do we want to establish what the purpose is? I was in our working group this past summer, we had distinct purposes that we needed to achieve. That gave great direction and guidance to the committee and what they were doing. So I wonder if that would also help frame who's on the committee too, if what the purpose is. If the purpose is, and maybe that needs to be fleshed out, and the first meeting that there be, some purposes determined.
Yeah,
because if you get a committee too large, I worry that it doesn't move forward unless we have some guidance about the purpose.
Yeah,
That's my thought.
I'd like to see it. So the purpose is really to discuss the facility needs and then I'd like the work group to determine what does that mean to them as a whole. Unless you'd like to see us do that as a committee. But I think having the work group determine, are we going to the point of, Springville needs new asphalt on their playground.
Right.
Are we going to that
Right.
detail? Or are we basically looking at just building the large building? I think that's where we need to decide time and capacity and interest of how far we're going to go into this.
That makes sense to me. And then you might want to say, as far as advisory council members, you'd have to indicate, like, if I were to hazard a guess, every one of them would love to be on it. So you might get that real big. So you might want to determine what type of advisory council member, or if there's a number, you may want to put that on there. I'm sure that they would all love, they've been great supporters as well, and I'm sure they would love to have feedback. And do we have, how do we do the makeup of that representation on the advisory council, since it's a advisory council of deaf and blind type things? And so there's lots to discuss on that.
Yeah. I would hope that they would choose a member, and then I would hope that it would be, and then it would become an active item on your advisory council that they get feedback, so they are actually bringing feedback back to these meetings from in their position.
So an advisory council member.
Yeah,
one.
I think
Okay.
yeah.
That's
and
what I mean.
that the advisory council recommends. So that could come from in their May meeting, if this passes, and then they select one to go forward, and then that person brings back that information.
That makes sense.
So, Superintendent Nilsson, and we're right at noon, so just to be aware of time.
Mine's really short. With the way that's listed there, to discuss USDB facility needs, that leaves a pretty wide open discussion point. And if we're going to do that, we'd want to have our facilities director there because, for instance, the playground surface in Springville, that's been addressed through our processes working with DFCM. So there's been an approval offered for that, and we have a timeline. But if you want to maybe consider narrowing that to just long-term facility needs, rather than getting into there's a lot of facility needs when you have 3 campuses, and it might distract the group from what I think is your overall purpose is to really prepare for submitting requests to the legislature for building.
Right, it is. It is. So do we call it in that audit, they called it capital facilities? Is that the term, or would long-term not? is capital different? Because to me, capital would be the buildings, and that's how they refer to it in the audit. What do you think about that, Superintendent
Yeah,
Nelson?
yeah, I agree with that. And they do use capital several times through the OLAG audit that I've uploaded.
Okay. Let's use that term to align with the audit then, because they talk about capital development projects. Like that's, I think that it would align. All right, I am not seeing any more hands. Final call for any recommendations. We have it currently worded that the committee recommend the board create a board working group as appointed by the board chair, including up to 7 board members, with USDB standing committee members having the first opportunity to volunteer to participate. A representative from DFCM, the USDB superintendency, and an USDB advisory council member to discuss USDB capital facility needs and bring recommendations to the full board in October. I'd ask probably Deborah Jacobson, is October the right time frame if we want to have support, something that we would take to the legislature, or does it need to come to the full board prior to that in order to be timely for the legislative, for like EAC or PEA that we'd want to recommend to if we had recommendations?
Was there a deadline for this one, Darren?
I do not recall if this one was if this was aligned with the other requirements to come back with the sustainable funding model, the salary schedule, some of those recommendations.
Yeah, I don't remember if this one was or not. I would maybe shoot for August.
Okay.
In the event that we actually have to report in October.
Okay. Yeah, this one is just in law, and there's no actual requirement other that says that if you want buildings, you got to do this.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Then we'd have it prepared to take in October.
Okay, perfect. All right. So then we've changed that to discuss USDB capital facility needs and bring recommendations to the full board in August. Like I said, not everybody's going to want to spend their summer doing this, so we'll have to see. All right, seeing no other hands, let's go ahead and vote. All those in favor of creating the working group, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes unanimously. We are at 12:04, and our associate superintendents were aware that their reports might be put off this month just because we had these other things that we needed to deal with. So I think we're prepared for a final motion if someone would like to make it.
I move that we adjourn.
All right, a motion to adjourn, non-debatable. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Well, thank you for your time and efforts this month. Appreciate the work that's gone into it and all the work that's going in behind the scenes to make sure that we make good decisions. So thank you and have a great week.